Depression. Probably the joint most commonly heard negative emotion that people might express they would like to be experiencing less of, from my experience at least, is depression. And depression has become much more of a topic of conversation over the last few decades, something that hopefully is much more well understood. And yet, despite all that, if anything, it's perhaps something that we as a population are experience on a higher frequency to greater depths at any point in history. So actually, all this conversation hasn't necessarily led to it going in the direction we want it to go to, which doesn't mean that conversing isn't part of the answer. Conversation, being open about these things is absolutely essential. But to me, that's indicative then of the fact that actually the majority of the change in any situation, but in this one particularly, comes not from the conversation, but from the actions. Conversation is often a great way to help us get clear on what actions, what behaviors, what things may help us, but ultimately it's those things and the doing that make the difference. And time again, from my experience, I genuinely don't think I've ever encountered anyone who, shall we say, suffers from depressive thoughts, consider themselves to be depressed, has lower mood perhaps on average than they might like to, who hasn't reported at least some degree of improvement in that when they've started exercising more regularly, eating better, getting more sleep, drinking less caffeine, drinking less alcohol, drinking more water. Doesn't mean I think that's the entirety of depression, but it does mean I don't think I've ever encountered someone for whom those aren't contributing factors that can potentially help. And I fully understand that sometimes it's the last thing we feel like doing. I know from my own mood, sometimes training, getting an early night, drinking more water, not drinking alcohol is the last thing I feel like doing. But I also know that I'll only ever feel like doing it at least more by doing it. I know that the benefits of doing those things come irrespective of how I feel. I know I will feel better after a workout, no matter how I felt about the workout going in, because every workout I've ever had, thousands and thousands over the years, has made me feel at least somewhat better. I know how much worse I feel after only a few days of not exercising, of maybe drinking more alcohol, drinking more caffeine, getting less sleep. And I know that if I were to do that for weeks, months, and years on end, like some people do, I know how much my mood, my mental health would slip in the wrong direction. I feel fairly likely that I'd be what you could be concerned to be chronically depressed. So I get it. I get it's not that easy, but nothing is as easy as saying the words. But that doesn't mean that it's not true. It doesn't mean that getting exercise in when we don't feel like it won't make us feel at least somewhat better. It doesn't mean that chronically over time, by exercising regularly, making better food choices, getting more sleep, drinking less alcohol and caffeine, we won't have better mood, better mental health, and less depression. So again, I get it, easier said than done, but everything's easier said than done.